I don't know if I can play in the dark or not.
It's on switch. It's on. There's a switch.
There's a switch, Bob.
Oh yes, there it is.
And it's on.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rick Alexander non-pedal room. And special thanks to Stephen Cowell, who's worked incredibly hard to make this room happen. This is always
Thank you very much.
and to the TSGA for their support.
Thanks for your kind donations. Couldn't
I'm
do
Bob
it.
Blair. And we're going to start off with someone, this is kind of a tradition. We start off with the great Billy Robinson from Nashville, Tennessee, and this guy has played with everybody. Maybe he'll tell you some stories too.
Yeah, I can tell up here. I couldn't tell.
Let's hear it for Billy Robinson.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you a few stories, and you know, I started on the Grand Ole Opry. I'm talking about a long time ago. Actually, I started in 1948. I was on a show called the Prince Albert Show. Prince Albert was a smoking tobacco. You can't advertise that anymore now, but back then you could, and that was our sponsor. And we had a different guest every Saturday night on the Prince Albert Show. And by the way, this was a show that went all over the United States. It went overseas, Armed Forces Radio. Everybody played this show because it was a NBC coast-to-coast show. We had a guy named Floyd Tillman. He was guest on the show, and he did a tune called "I Love You So Much It Hurts." And I love that song. It's a beautiful song, a little waltz, and I'd like to do that for you first. I love you so much it hurts. In the key of F, fellas. You have to tell everybody the key. You ready, waltz? brings back a lot of memories to me. You know, we had a bass fiddle player in the band that I was in, the Red Foley Band. And actually, when you was on the NBC show, you were staff musician at WSM, so we got a chance to play with everybody. And we had a guy that, Les Paul, came to see us. We were working in New York, and he came to see actually our bass player who worked with the Les Paul Trio, a guy named Ernie Newton. And Ernie had a bass fiddle that had a snare drum on the side of it. Did you ever see that? And he held this brush in one hand and he'd play with the thumb. And Les Paul come to see him. We were playing in New York, and he had a big hit record out called High, High the Moon. And I'd like to do that song for you now. It's not a country song, but it's a song that I love to play. And I had to learn to play it because it had more than 3 chords in it. But I'd like to do that for you now. High, High the Moon. I've got key of G. Key of G. Eddie Arnold, a great singer, left the Grand Ole Opry in 1949. A lot of nice things happened in 1949 because that was the second year I was on the Grand Ole Opry. And when Eddie Arnold left, the reason he left was he had to be so many Saturday nights you had to be on the Grand Ole Opry, and he was making so much money doing his personal appearances, he didn't want to do that. So he left the Grand Ole Opry, and the Grand Ole Opry was looking for somebody to take his place. And they went to Waverly, Tennessee, and they found a young man named George Morgan. Now, George Morgan had written a song called Candy Kisses. And he came to the Grand Ole Opry, and of course the staff band. I was part of the staff band, so I got the opportunity to work with him and also record with him. And I recorded about 8 songs with him before he hired his band. And Mr. Ray, I'd like to let's do this song for him, the Candy Kisses, okay, in the key of C, fellas. Ray Allen.
playmate of mine. Candy kisses wrapped in paper, you'd rather have them any old time. You don't mean it when you whisper the sweet love word in my ear. Candy kisses wrapped in paper mean more to you than mine do, dear. Mr. Billy Robinson. Build a castle out of dreams, dear. I thought that you were dreaming too. Now my castle has turned to ashes. I thought I had a love so true. Minute when you whisper those sweet love words in my ear. Candy kisses wrapped in paper mean more to you than mine do, dear. Mean more to you than mine do, dear. Mr. Billy Robinson.
I think I'm playing a little bit too loud. You know, I've got my hearing aid out, so I can't tell how loud I'm playing. You know, we had another young man. It was 1950. He came. His name was Carl Smith, and I cut 8 different tunes with him, and he said that his most requested tune was a tune called "I Overlooked an Orchid," and I had the opportunity to record that with him, and I'd like to do that for you now. "Overlooked an Orchid," and this is a great Carl Smith tune. Now, he said that he'd cut a lot of records, and he had bigger hits than this, but this is the one he got the most requests for, "I Overlooked an Orchid," in the key of G, fellas.
We get to turn off the twang switch on this one, right? The orchid is a flower that blooms so tenderly to thrill the fairest maiden of the land. When placed beside a blushing rose, the rose could not compare. Oh, but how was such as I to understand? I overlooked an orchid while searching for a rose. The orchid that I overlooked was you, and the rose that I was searching for turned out to be untrue. The orchid now I find, my dear, was you. Mr. Billy Robinson. Now the rose has lost its color, oh, but the orchid's still the same. And I'm alone to face these lonely years. I didn't see the orchid, I was searching for the rose. So now I pay the price with bitter tears. I overlook an orchid while searching for the rose. The orchid that I overlooked was you. And the rose that I was searching for turned out to be untrue. The orchid now I find mine, it was you. The orchid now I find mine, dear, was you. Billy Robinson.
I'm playing too loud and I got too much treble. Well, I'm going to have to get out in the audience and listen to me and see.
Sounds great.
You didn't say trouble, you said trouble.
Too much money. No.
Let's see what that does. We had another guy come to the Grand Ole Opry in 1949. A lot of things happened that year. That hadn't been but 69 years ago, by the way. Golly, time passes fast when you're having a good time, don't it? We had a guy, and his name was Hank Williams. Now, we're not talking about Hank Williams Jr., we're talking about Hank Williams Sr. And I had the good fortune to work with him until he hired Don Helms, who was his steel guitar player, and most of his time that he was in business of singing. But we'd like to do a song in his memory, a tune called Cold, Cold Heart. And I had the pleasure of working with Hank many times doing this song for him on the Prince Albert Show and on the WSM. This is the great Hank Williams song called Cold, Cold Heart, key of D.
I've tried so hard, my dear, to show that you're my every dream. Oh, but you're afraid each thing I do is just some evil scheme. A memory from your lonesome past keeps us so far apart. Oh, why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Another love before my time made your heart sad and blue. And so my heart is paying now for things I didn't do. In anger, unkind words are said that make the teardrops start. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Billy Robinson. There was a time that I believed that you belonged to me, but now I know your heart is shackled to a memory. Why do you run and hide from life to try it just ain't smart. What can I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? What can I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart? Mr. Billy Robinson.
You know, the Grand Ole Opry made its first trip overseas in 1949, and I was part of the staff band. It had been Grady Martin, and we had half of the band was Roy Acuff's band. We had Red Foley and Eva Foley. By the way, a lot of people don't know that Eva Foley and Red Foley was Pat Boone's father-in-law. That was so just for whatever reason you might want to know that. You know, we went to Germany and we played a lot of places in Germany. We went to Berlin and Frankfurt and Munich, and we was all over. We was playing for the Air Force. And when we went to Berlin, you had to be really careful because they had the Berlin sector, they had the British sector, had the American sector. And if you got into the Russian sector, you was in deep trouble. And what they did, they give us all orders, and the orders were written in Russian. And Hank Williams looked at me, and he looked at those orders, and he said, "Billy, those Russians could never win a war because they don't even know how to spell." We took some trips around, went to the Heidelberg Castle, and I went up there with Hank Williams, and they had a wine barrel there, and this wine barrel held 5,500 gallons of wine, I believe. But it was under this castle, the Heidelberg Castle. And Hank looked at me and he says, "You think we can get that thing on the plane?" So he liked a little wine, as you can see. You know, my grandkids didn't particularly care for the steel guitar until I did this song for them. And let's see. A guy named Salty Holmes. I don't know if anybody remembers Salty or not, but he was a great harmonica player. And I decided I'd try to do that on a steel guitar, and it's called the Mama Blues. And I like to do that for you now. But this is one, now this is not for adults. This is for the little kids, for the grandkids, and I've got great grandkids. And I'd like to do that song for you now, called the Mama Blues. Key of G. Okay. Hey, steel guitar, what do you want? You want your mama? Well, holler at your mama. All right, now she can't hear that. Holler where she can hear you. That's a little bit better. Now tell these folks out there, say, I want my mama. All right. Where is your mama? I think she went out on the farm. How did she get out there? She got out there on an old train, right? Yeah. Well, tell me what do they have out there on the farm? They've got what? They got the chickens out there, and they got the old moo cows out there, and they got little bitty baby chickens out there, Santa. What was that? That was me laying an egg. I think I'm laying one doing this song. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's do a little poem for your mama. Is that all right? All right. I said okay. Okay, let's do this song. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. I think, let's go ahead and finish this song. Is that all right? All right. Okay. That's the Mama Blues. All right. I don't know how much time I've got. I think I'm just about out. What do we got? How much time do we
You got
have?
15 minutes.
Got how much?
You got 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Great, great. That's great. You know, we used to travel in automobiles back when I was on the Grand Ole Opry, and you know, you travel with a bass fiddle over your neck, and or sometimes it'd be on top of the car, and a lot of times we all took turns traveling. Driving the car, and while we were traveling, and we had a guy named Sleepy McDaniel, and Sleepy was driving, and it was somebody else's turn to drive, and Sleepy said, "I'm tired," and he went to sleep, and said, "You somebody else drive." So while Sleepy was sleeping there, he hadn't been sleeping about probably 10 minutes, and we all come up with an idea we was going to put a little trick on him, so you couldn't wake him up once he went to sleep. So we wound his watch ahead 4 hours. And then they had a clock on the car. You know, you used to have those clocks on the automobiles. And we wound it ahead 4 hours. And we woke Sleepy up. "Hey, Sleepy, it's your time to drive again." He said, "My goodness," he said, "it seemed like I've been sleeping only 10 minutes, which he had." So he started driving again. So he's driving a couple of hours, and all of a sudden Sleepy started hollering. He said, "Goodness gracious, wake up everybody, something's bad is wrong." And I said, what's the matter, Sleepy? He said, "It's 10 o'clock in the morning and the sun hadn't come up yet." True story. Let's see. There's so many stories. You know, when you're in the business that I'm in, you meet so many different people, and there's so many stories and fun and things that you have. And a lot of these things have been in books, in the history books. And I'd like to tell you a story about Elvis Presley and Heartbreak Hotel. I was playing in a place in Nashville, a little nightclub there, and I met this fella. I'd never seen this fella before in my life. And we got to talking. He said, "I'm Daytona Beach, Florida, and I'd like to get a band to come down and play." He said, "My business is really, really off." And so I said, "Well, what can you pay him?" He said, "I can't pay him anything." I said, "Well, good luck." "Well, no," I said, "I know some people who might like to have a vacation." He said, I can do this for you. I can give them a vacation, and I'll feed them, and I'll put them up in a hotel." Which we did. I called a guy named Buddy Killen. I don't know if anybody knows who Buddy Killen is, and his wife is June Webb. And I called my brother Floyd Robinson, and we went to Florida, and we were playing for nothing. And a lady come in who was a songwriter, and she said, we got talking to Buddy Killen. Buddy Killen had just got a job at Tree Publishing Company, and he was making $35 a week, and he was down there with me playing for nothing. And anyway, this lady come in, and she says, "I can get you tickets over to see this young man who's just getting started," and that was Elvis Presley. She went over and got us tickets. We went backstage, and we got to meet him, and they got to talking, and Buddy Killen, who was with Tree Publishing Company, and this lady who wrote Heartbreak Hotel, we sold that thing to Elvis Presley. We were down there playing for nothing, and can you imagine, Buddy Killen sold and published that song, one of the biggest publishing songs that Tree Publishing had never done. Buddy Killen ended up selling Tree Publishing Company for millions of dollars down there playing with me for nothing. And they asked me, "What did you get out of that?" I said, "I had a nice vacation." And that was it. But that's how he got Heartbreak Hotel, the true story. And that's in a lot of books. All right, let's do another tune here, a tune called Caravan, all right? Caravan?
Oh, yeah.
It's in the key. It's an F minor. It starts on C7. Okay. Well, there's so many stories. I don't know if I need to tell another story or take a drink of water. I'd like to do I think Jimmy Dickens did that, Take Me As I Am and Let Me Go. All right, this will be the key of C, fellas, and